Hey there, happy Tuesday. I'm at work. It's Ashley. So it has been my official first week of being in Oregon and on this beautiful campground that I've been staying and doing work trade. And I'm going to tell you what I have realized over the last week after being in the normal everyday life and then just stepping out of that and taking a chance and coming somewhere totally new with totally new rules, and trying to unpack most of what I was brought up with. So I came from a very well to do family. Okay. My family had a lot of money and they were very small minded, very entitled, very racist, very all of the things. And so, in order to be accepted in my family, and to get any kind of help or even love in general, your belief system had to be the same as theirs, or else you were an outcast. So, between my mother and my mom's side of the family, I really struggled because I was more of an alternative mind. I really had a lot of friends that didn't look anything like me. And so I had to wrestle with whether or not I wanted to betray my friends and myself, or bring them around my family and risk them being ridiculed. So being brought up with a family like that and also being taught that like your family, blood is thicker than water and things like that, it took me a lot of years to realize that I was doing a great disservice to myself being that close-minded, like my family. And so now that I'm in my 40s, I realize that the variety is the spice of life. So I'm very glad that I walked away from that mindset because some of the greatest people I've ever met don't look anything like me, have not had backgrounds like me, and I've learned great lessons from them. So I've worked since I was 14. I own my own business. I had started a cut flower farm after I stopped drinking in 2012. And my cut flower farm did really, really well until the pandemic. And then the pandemic shut down my cut flower farm. All of my weddings and events were canceled. And when they were rescheduled and when I had to honor those contracts, I ended up having to go through wholesale and it took my business under. Was it a great big giant business? No, but it was mine and it was something that I had worked really hard on, and I was really proud of. But I also realized that without that business, I didn't really know who I was. That business was part of my identity, and it was part of my look, I've succeeded in life. I have a business. And it had a lot of purpose behind it. But once it shut down again, I was like, what do I do now? Like I had built my entire identity off of pretty much that business, and that I had stopped drinking and figured you could turn pain into purpose. So then we moved down to Florida, and I was in a very long-term relationship. We were together 15 years. I don't really like talking about it because I don't like painting people in a negative light, and it was a very negative, toxic relationship that both of us participated in. And I did not like who I was becoming. I did not like the role I was playing. I did not like who we were together anymore. And I had evolved a lot over the years, and my ex really wanted me to be somebody else. And so I just look at that now as like a very large mirror, to the person I didn't want to be anymore. So after 15 years of being provided for and getting all of these things that I was told that I got, I decided to leave and to get my own place. And by the time I had gotten my own place, financially, everything had changed so much that I was not able to financially care for myself with a regular 9 to 5 job. There was no way. And I wasn't getting 2 jobs. So I had a kind of a crisis of conscience and was like, fuck it, excuse my French, but I was like, what am I doing all of this for anymore? This is completely unattainable, unstable, unsatisfactory in my eyes. And I'm one of those people that I don't like to ask for help. I like to do things on my own. But if you were with somebody and it's so great, why would you give up everything to get away from it? And so I like to point out that there was no reciprocity at all. It was more of I was there to do the domestic duties and be the woman in the relationship. And if I didn't follow those guidelines, it became a very ugly situation that I didn't want to be a part of anymore. So once I moved and got on my own again, I was doing tropical plants, and I've never had so many problems selling my plants. In the last 4 months, it totally took me broke. All my packages were getting lost in the mail. I was having a really hard time selling my plants, which I had never had an issue with, and there were so many things going wrong. I just felt like this has got to be a sign of some sort that I'm not supposed to be here. And I was month to month in my house. So I think it was kind of a blessing in disguise, because there was nowhere for me to go in Florida. There was nowhere. My mom's family was not offering any kind of room for me or my son. And I thought, why do I even live around them? Like, they don't treat us like family. And so what am I doing? And I decided to sell or give away everything that I had that wasn't of extreme value, like sentimentally, or my son, my dog, and his mouse. And we picked up and we drove to Oregon. And that was where I found this work trade campsite. And I'm going to be able to start over fresh based on who I am and who I want to be now. Because after being in long-term relationships, owning a business, and trying to follow along with how society tells you to go, I forgot who I was. And I also did not like what I was working towards or working for, and how my relationship had gone. I didn't like any of the standards of society, and I wanted to just shed everything that I had been taught, programmed with, learned, and come back as something brand new, like a butterfly coming out of the chrysalis kind of thing. I wanted to do stuff on my own terms. And so I'm very grateful that I found this place and that they offered me a place to live in exchange for caring for this land, because it's beautiful. And it's also taught me that stillness and your time, even though it's not what we think it is extremely valuable. And when you're out there in the real world doing so much, you forget how much time you use just with the everyday grind. And so it's been a little bit of an adjustment, but I think that this is going to grow me in ways that I would have never, ever been able to grow remaining in the 9 to 5 hustle. And I think it's also going to allow me to one day return the favor to others. This has broadened my perspectives and also given me this boost of creativity, and really inspired me to do something with my life that will benefit others in the long run. So I wanted to make this video under 10 minutes, but after the first week of being here, I'm starting to really, really, really love the land and love everything that it offers. And it is so renewing and so healing. And if you are in your mid 40s and you are trying to figure out what life is all about and where you're supposed to be going, look at some kind of nature retreat or something like that, where you can just take a couple days and get back to the woods or get back to the water and just be by yourself and be still and know that there is something out there for you that is going to be calling your name really soon. Being in nature has definitely shown that something is calling me, and that's how I ended up here. And so instead of listening to everyone around me or what society says is the way to go in order to be successful, I started listening to myself and listening to the earth and the trees and nature. And it's been guiding me and keeping me in a space of calm that I have never experienced before. It's peace, and for 15 years I was in chaos. And before that too, even my Even my upbringing at home when I was a kid was very tumultuous. And so at 43, I'm finally learning what peace is on my terms. And I think every adult, or at least a large majority of us, are missing out on what peace actually is and how we can attain that on our own. And I think it's of the utmost importance right now with so many things changing with the planets and everything else. But I just wanted to stop on here. I went over 10 minutes, but it's one step at a time, one day at a time, one present moment at a time. But by the end of this, I think that I'm going to have become someone that I and both my kids can be very proud of. And that is going to leave a lasting legacy of its own. And just being here and removing myself from the everyday chaos and anger of our lovely country, I'm doing a service to humanity by not stepping into chaos, fear, anger, rage. I'm holding my frequency at peace, joy, happiness, gratitude. And that does a lot all on its own. So I hope your day is going well. I hope you will follow, like, subscribe, and I will see you later.